So after Othello ended up taking a lot longer than I wanted it to, I decided for the 2048 tutorial to just kind of walk you through everything I did by showing you the different stages of the development. And I'm not going to really do any typing in this tutorial. I've already got each stage saved as an individual step, an individual file. As you can see here, this is the editor with steps 1 through 15. And then I've got the browser with each of the stages kind of displayed to show you what it would look like at that stage. So the very first stage, if I hover over these, it shows you the first stage is the background, and this is what the code looks like that produced this. It's just the basic HTML tag with some script. Actually, there's no script yet because it's just a static element that doesn't do anything. And it is specifically a div element with an ID, and then this is the styling that made it gray, positioned at the top left corner, 500 by 500. And oh yeah, the gray color is the CC. Okay, so the second step, we're actually going to add another tile into that grid. So that's what the code looks like for that. I added an onload function, which creates a reference to the background element. So as soon as the page loads, it immediately stores a reference to the background element, so that inside of another function here, the drawGridFromModel function, when we create another element dynamically, instead of having it down here, we're creating it through JavaScript. We can immediately add it to the background element. That's why we created the reference for it. Okay, so the tile itself, this is its styling. We have, of course, its position is absolute. It is going to be top and left, starting at position 0. And its width and height is 100 by 100. We gave it a font size 48. Of course, that's going to come into play later when you see the number actually appear on that, but we're just going to have it 48 for now. And then we aligned it center. Of course, that's something you'll see later too. I changed its color, of course, so you can see it. It's a little bit lighter. CCCCCC is darker than EEEEE. It turns out, you know what, never mind. If you're curious about how hexadecimal colors work, maybe you can do some more research on your own. Okay, so it immediately gets that reference and then calls that function drawGridFromModel, which is this stuff right there, and that's how we have a little tile there. Okay, then the third step results in this. The third step is to create a row of those tiles. So all I did was I added a for loop where we're saying, let's go from 0 to the number of columns, which numCols is now a new variable I created, and it has the value 4. So numRows equals 4, numCols equals 4, and we're just setting up a loop to go up to 4 times, creating that element. So we're creating 4 different tile elements and adding each one to the background. Okay, and then step 4 is to create another loop around that loop, so that now not only do we have one row of 4 items, we have 4 rows of 4 items, because this outer loop, as you can see, goes from 0 to the number of rows, increasing by 1 each time. So the number of rows is also 4, so we have a 4 by 4 grid of these tiles. And something I didn't point out actually in the last one, I also changed the values of the top and the left attributes. So instead of just being 0, I have to now rely on its index, so which row it's on, which column it's on. So I and J, of course, tell us those things. And you just say, whatever our index is as far as the column goes, so how far left we are, is going to be 120 times its index. So 120 is because each tile itself is 100 by 100. So 120 allows for the gap. Right? It takes into consideration the gap between each tile as well. So 120 is the distance from here to here. Okay. And I did the same thing for the rows and the columns. So it's 120 from here down to here too. So that's what determines where to start drawing each tile using these indices for the row and the current column. Oh, by the way, gap equals 20. I used that too at the very end of this, I added that 20. That's just to say we start one gap in.